8 bone-chilling stalker stories that haunt you forever. The shocking truth revealed. The moon hung low and heavy in the night sky, casting an eerie glow over the quiet town of Maplewood. Shadows danced as wind whispered secrets through the trees. But among the silent streets, there was a shuddering undercurrent, a pulse of fear, drawing breath from the chilling stories that reverberated through the community. They spoke of stalkers, unseen, lurking just beyond the edge of light, waiting patiently in the darkness, eager to strike. Each tale wove its way into the fabric of everyday life, but one story in particular sent chills racing down spines, twisting stomachs, and gripping hearts with a suffocating squeeze. On the edge of town lived a girl, Sarah, known for her radiant smile and infectious laughter. But last fall, whispers began to swirl like fog creeping in from unknown depths about the peculiar things happening around her home. It started with a missing cat, followed by a series of strange notes left on her doorstep. They were scrawled in shaky handwriting, filled with unsettling compliments that turned into thinly veiled threats. Each time she opened her front door, her heart raced faster, the lump in her throat growing larger. Who was watching her? And why? Days turned into weeks, and the unseen presence hung like a dark cloud over Sarah's life. Neighbors noted odd things: barefoot footprints leading into her garden, a figure watching from the trees at dusk. Friends laughed nervously as they walked with her, eyes darting left and right, waiting for the moment the stalker might step from the shadows. Sarah tried to act unaffected, but inside, dread twisted like a knife. The walls of her home felt stifling, the loneliness amplified by her ever-watchful eye on the darkness. She lay in bed. Every creak of the house became an echo of footsteps. Moments of stillness felt as potent as a lioness growl. And just when her heart couldn't take it anymore, the notes escalated, each one more sinister than the last. Was the stalker closer than she'd ever imagined? Did they want something more than just to scare her? Each second felt like an hour, each glance outside, a gamble against the odds. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Then came the night when Sarah's phone buzzed with a text that sent her pulse racing. "I see you," it read. Panic tightened her chest as she flicked on the porch light, illuminating the yard in a stark, almost violent glow. But the shadows shifted, and she found nothing, just empty spaces and rustling leaves whispering of things left unsaid. Yet it wasn't just the words that terrified her. It was the thought that someone, anyone, could be lurking just out of sight, thriving on her fear. In that moment, Sarah's heart thundered in her ears. Who was this person? What did they want? And would she ever feel safe in her own home again? As anxiety tightened her grip, she knew one thing: this was only the beginning. What lay ahead was a confrontation with the very depths of terror. But was she ready to uncover the shocking truth lurking behind every corner? The night wore on, stretching like dark fingers into the corners of Sarah's mind. Sleep felt like a distant memory, replaced by a rattling sense of urgency. Her heart raced under the weight of fear, pounding a rhythm that refused to let her rest. Each second ticked by, a relentless reminder of the unknown lurking just beyond her walls. She moved quietly through her home, every shadow feeling like a living entity. The walls, once filled with laughter and warmth, now felt cold and oppressive. Sarah stopped in front of the window, peering out into the unforgiving night. The porch light cast long shadows that swayed gently, creating a dance that only heightened her agitation. She was not alone. She could feel it in her bones. The chilling text replayed in her mind. "I see you." What kind of monster watched someone like this? Unable to shake the feeling of being observed, she turned her phone over, hoping the darkness would hide her vulnerability as she fought to grasp some semblance of control. And there it was again, a rustle outside, a breath of wind that sounded all too much like footsteps retreating into the shadows. Instinct kicked in, and she grabbed the nearest thing to her, a heavy flashlight. Holding it tightly against her chest, she took a deep breath, summoning courage she didn't know she had. The stillness was suffocating, and the house felt as if it had swallowed her whole. With trembling hands, she unlocked the front door, heart thundering. "Hello?" she called, her voice quaking as it pierced the heavy air. Silence. Only the night responded with its ongoing symphony of whispers and crickets. Stepping outside, she felt a rush of cold air, like the hands of a ghost brushing against her skin. She swung the flashlight around, slicing through the darkness, searching for a figure, a hint of movement. Nothing, but fear blossomed again as she noticed something near the edge of her garden, a shiny glint, as if a treasure had been hidden. Cautiously, she moved closer, her breath hitching in her throat. A small, silver locket lay half-buried in the soil. She picked it up, her hands trembling as she opened it. Inside, the locket contained a tiny photograph of a child, an innocent face with wide, dark eyes. A shiver danced down Sarah's spine. Who was this child? And what was the connection to her stalker? Questions spiraled. Anxiety grew claws within her mind. Staying in one spot felt dangerous now, so she decided to reach for her next step. Maybe if she shared this with someone, they could. Before she could finish that thought, a loud crash erupted from behind her. Heart racing, she spun around. The porch door had swung wide open, creaking as if it had been forcefully pushed. "Someone's inside," she whispered, panic flooding every nerve. She fought against her racing heart, every survival instinct telling her to flee. But fear shackled her to the spot, paralyzed in dread. What had she invited into her home? The creeping realization that she may have gone too far settled in. Just then, her phone buzzed again, a sharp vibration in the deafening silence. "Are you scared yet?" the message taunted. She didn't know what to do. With no time to think, Sarah dashed toward the house, a surge of adrenaline pushing her forward. What lay inside could be worse than the unknown outside, but the choice she had now was a game of cat and mouse, and she had no idea which side she was on. As she crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind her. In that moment, Sarah understood that the true horror was just beginning. What had she awakened? And would she be the one to face the reckoning? The darkness wrapped around Sarah like a thick, suffocating blanket as she stood frozen just inside her doorway. Her heart raced, pounding so loudly that it drowned out the echoes of the outside storm. The door's sudden slam reverberated through her chest, a chilling reminder that something was definitively wrong. She strained her ears to pick up any sound over the cacophony of her own panic. The house was still, but the uneasy silence felt alive, crawling around her like unseen eyes. Shivers ran down her spine. Was she still alone? With the flashlight gripped tightly in her trembling hands, Sarah summoned every ounce of courage and pressed forward. She navigated the narrow hallway, each step feeling like a wrestling match against gravitational force. Shadows danced along the walls, stretching into abyssal shapes that twisted her imagination. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again. She had nearly forgotten it in her hand. Come out, wherever you are." The sing-song tone sent electric jolts of fear coursing through her veins. Who was playing games with her? That child's photograph hung in her mind like a nightmare, connecting strings of fear in her heart to the unknown presence that lurked not far behind. "Stop it," she shouted into the emptiness, surprising even herself with the ferocity of her own voice. The response was nothing but silence, and yet its weight pressed down on her, forcing her towards the living room. Taking an unsteady breath, she flicked the flashlight on. The beam of light sliced through the darkness and revealed the familiar furniture of her home, now distorted, groaning under the pressure of her fear. Her gaze darted around, searching for signs of life movement, a silhouette, anything that signaled she was not alone. And then she saw it. A shadow flitted past the edge of her peripheral vision, catching her heart in a vice grip of terror. She turned, pointing the flashlight towards the movement just in time to catch a glimpse of something small disappearing into another room. "Who's there?" She called, her voice breaking slightly as it echoed back to her. No reply, just the faint sound of something soft, like a whisper intertwined with the rustles of fabric. Sarah's breath quickened. The flashlight beam danced nervously, hesitating before tentatively illuminating the doorway that led into the adjacent room. It felt impossible to move, but the need to confront that lurking darkness was overpowering. One step, then another. As she entered, the beam fell upon the most unsettling sight. Her living room was in disarray. Cushions were strewn and the curtains swayed wildly, as if an icy draft had suddenly pulled them. But it wasn't the mess that caught her breath. On the floor lay her own jacket, discarded and twisted. A creeping realization began to uncoil within her like a snake. Had someone been here? Had they touched her things? Been in this very room? Get a grip, Sarah, she muttered. The words, barely a whisper, meant more to reassure herself than anyone else. Her phone buzzed again, but this time it was a call. A momentary surge of relief washed over her. Maybe it was a friend checking in. Maybe they could help. With shaking hands, she answered. Hello? A low, cold chuckle responded on the other end, sending icy shards racing through her spine. They don't know you like I do. Sarah, the voice belonged to someone she recognized, someone she had trusted, and with that realization came a rush of dread. Was this the game that had just begun? There's nowhere to hide yet, the voice continued, dripping with malice. As the call ended abruptly, darkness tucked deeper into her soul, and Sarah felt the ground slip away. She stood in her own home, trapped in a nightmare woven with every flicker of the flashlight. Just as she thought she might gather enough strength to bolt out of there, a sudden crack echoed from the back of the house. Something, or someone, was coming. What had she awakened? Would she be able to face the truth that was stalking her? A shiver cascaded down Sarah's spine as the crack reverberated through the air, louder and yet oddly muffled, as though it carried the weight of dread. Her instincts screamed at her to run, to hurl herself into the tempest outside and escape this unfolding horror. But her feet remained rooted, heavy as concrete as sheer terror tightened its grip. Stay calm, she whispered to herself, the words just a feeble mantra in the vast stillness. The flashlight beam flickered slightly, as if sensing her wavering courage. She steadied her breath, willing the light to pierce the darkness creeping closer, tightening its hold around her very soul. The kitchen door creaked open, and a sliver of shadow seeped into her living room. Uncertainty coiled in her gut as she fought against the urge to scream. Cold dread coiled tighter around her heart, squeezing it painfully. Who's there? She called out again, forcing her voice to remain steady. It came out more assertive this time, but she could hear the slight tremor beneath her words. There was no reply, only the continued silence of the house mixed with the relentless pounding of the storm outside. Then came another sound, soft, hesitant footsteps, barely discernible but unmistakable. Each step echoed like a countdown, a promise of impending confrontation. Her flashlight flickered again, casting erratic shadows that seemed to dance with malicious anticipation. The door to the kitchen was ajar, a mere crack, but it felt like a chasm, a vast expanse where nightmares lurked. Trembling, she edged closer, the beam penetrating the darkness, revealing the kitchen's treacherous depths. Show yourself, she dared to take a step inside, but as she did, a gust of wind slammed the door shut behind her. The sound reverberated, rattling her nerves. Panicking now, Sarah swung the flashlight wildly, illuminating fragments of her home, her reality. It was a game of hide and seek, but she was not the one hiding. And then she found it, a shadow, darker than the rest, flitting just behind a chair. Her heart thundered. But as she darted toward the chair, it was empty. The kitchen felt claustrophobic, the walls closing in around her. In a last-ditch effort to regain control, she shouted, I know you're here. There was a pause, and then a soft, mocking laughter erupted from behind her. Her heart twisted in fear, and she spun around, her flashlight beam catching nothing but empty air before abruptly cutting out, plunging her into inky blackness. Her breath hitched, and her pulse raced even harder now. Blind, she fumbled with the flashlight, pressing the button repeatedly in vain. Panic set in harder than the storm each attempted click, turning her world into a void of shadows. Then she felt it, a light touch on her shoulder, cold and featherlight, like the brush of a ghost's fingers. Sarah gasped, and before she could turn, the voice whispered close to her ear. You should have listened. A jolt of terror coursed through her, and she twisted away, launching herself toward the kitchen door, but it wouldn't budge. Open, damn it, she yelled, her voice cracking as desperation clawed at her throat. The air turned thick as if her cries invited the darkness to press in closer. Suddenly, the flashlight flickered back to life, casting a beam across the room with newfound intensity. And there, standing at the entrance of the kitchen, was the unmistakable silhouette of a child grinning widely, framed in the doorway like a twisted specter. Sarah's stomach churned, her pulse quickening as memories flashed of the photograph, laughter fading into silence. The child she thought she had lost. The nightmare she couldn't escape. Come play with us, the voice beckoned sweetly, echoing through the kitchen like a morbid lullaby as the child stepped closer. The darkness pulsed around them, inching forward, hungry. Was it a child at all? Or something else, something far more sinister, waiting to reclaim what it believed belonged to it? In that moment, Sarah understood this was no innocent game. It was a sinister summons, and she was the prize. The walls echoed with the mocking laughter once again, growing louder. Would she find a way to break free from this chilling specter of her past? Or would the darkness finally envelop her? In the clutches of dread, she felt the pull of the shadows tighten. What was real? What was a figment of her fraying sanity? As the laughter crescendoed around her, those questions were the last thing on her mind. All that remained was the desperate need to escape. Where could she run when the very fabric of her home twisted against her? And who was waiting beyond the door, ready to reclaim what they had lost? The moment stretched as Sarah stood paralyzed, the shadows swirling around her like a dark storm, feeding on her fear. That child, was it truly her lost one, or a twisted mimicry of innocence meant to ensnare her further? The grin danced on the child's lips, crooked and unnatural, a haunting reflection of something she once adored. Get away from me, she shouted, but the words sounded small against the wall of laughter that enveloped her. The chilling echoes danced in her ears, a cacophony mocking her plight. With a surge of defiance, she swung the flashlight toward the child, but the beam flickered unpredictably, illuminating nothing but cracks in the wall and empty air where the child had just stood. Come play, the voice now echoed from multiple directions, disembodied and taunting, slithering through her mind. It was a siren's call, sweet, deceptive. Her heart pounded wildly, each beat a drum of urgency. Resolved to escape the suffocating embrace of the shadows, Sarah grasped the doorknob, twisting it with all her strength. It remained steadfast, a barrier she could not breach. Panic clawed at her chest, tightening until it became difficult to breathe. Open, she cried, desperation tinging her plea with hysteria. The walls seemed to pulse, as if responding to her fear, mocking her through every creak and groan. And a sudden burst of recklessness, she threw her weight against the door, the wood shuddering beneath her. Her shoulder collided with the splintering surface, and for a fleeting moment, she felt hope, a crack of space, a whisper of freedom. But the darkness surged forward, pressing against her with its tenacity, and she felt it seeping through the cracks of her sanity. She turned, her flashlight flickering again, and caught a glimpse of the child's face once more. This time, it seemed to dissolve into the shadows, the grin widening into a gaping maw as if swallowing the light whole. Terror surged through her, and she stumbled back, heart racing. What if this was a nightmare she couldn't wake from? What if the shadows wanted more than her fear? They wanted redemption for whatever wrong had been done. Leave me alone, she yelled in a desperate last stand, her voice igniting a flicker of strength within her. Yet the room quaked with laughter, a sound that twisted into something dark, hungry for despair. Fumbling, she searched for something, anything that could help. Her fingers grazed the edge of a countertop, brushing against the cool, metallic surface of a knife block. In a motion fueled by raw survival instinct, she grabbed the heaviest knife. Its blade glinted menacingly, catching the brief flicker of her flashlight. "Stay back," she shouted, holding it like a shield. The laughter faltered, uncertainty slicing through the chaos as the shadows momentarily hesitated. But they weren't done. The child's voice returned, trembling with childish delight mixed with an overpowering darkness. "You can't escape, we just want to play forever play? Is that what you call this?" Sarah shot back, her voice steeped in rage and fear alike. They were toying with her, fueling her anguish. Suddenly, a violent crash echoed from the other room, breaking the spell of the shadows. The sound was forceful, like something large had fallen, and it sent adrenaline coursing through her veins. Perhaps it was her way out of distraction as the darkness pulsed around her once more. She realized that uncertainty itself was her enemy, lurking inside every shadow cast by her own flickering light. She had to move, to fight against the very terror that sought to consume her. Gathering what was left of her courage, she bolted toward the kitchen door. It flung open with a sudden force, as though the storm outside had shoved it wide, granting her an unexpected escape. But just as she crossed the threshold, she heard the soft, whispering command, "Don't leave me trailing behind her like a thread." The darkness recoiled, yet it hung in the air, weighty and persistent. Stepping into the adjoining room, she froze as the silhouettes melded together, growing thicker, more menacing. Outside, the storm howled louder, blurring the line between reality and the remnants of a nightmare. What awaited her now? Had the shadow grasped her heart, even as she fled, never truly leaving? Echoes of laughter filled the space behind her, growing more frantic. The darkness did not merely seek to chase her from her home. It intended to embed itself deep within her. With no clear path ahead, Sarah steeled herself for a battle against the suffocating presence that haunted her corners. She was done being a pawn in someone else's game. The storm raged, but so did her resolve. Yet, in that chaos, the shadows were unfurling their next move. As the eerie laughter crescendoed around her, she could almost feel the walls whispering, what if there was something she could do to turn this haunting against them? What dark price would she have to pay? Sarah stepped forward, the raw edge of fear still gripping her mind. Each echo of laughter that faded behind her brought a tiny flicker of hope, but each new sound only fueled the dread that was rising within her. She was in a twisted maze, a dark puzzle designed to envelop her in despair. The air grew colder as she moved further into the adjoining room. Shadows crept in close, shifting around her, whispering tales of lost children and abandoned dreams. Her flashlight flickered, but she could feel something beyond its weak beam, a palpable force that seemed to breathe around her. Each corner of the room held fragments of memories she didn't want to confront. "What do you want?" she yelled, her voice steady though her heart hammered wildly against her ribs. "Come play with us," the voices echoed again, layered with malicious delight. They were no longer just words. They felt like promises laced with venom. Taking a breath, she pushed against the suffocating sensation that surrounded her. She had come too far to turn back now. She wasn't going to let whatever this was overwhelm her. She had already lost so much of herself to despair. Flicking her knife towards the shadows, she shouted, "I'm not afraid of you." In a moment of hesitation, the shadows lurched. For an instant, she thought she saw a shimmer of light, a flicker of something once beautiful. Was it joy, hope, or merely the shadows reflecting her memories back at her? It was hard to tell amidst the cloak of darkness weighing heavy in the air. The moment was broken by another crash, louder this time, a furniture splintering, glass shattering. She turned, adrenaline spiking, the thrill of survival pushing her on despite the fear curling in her stomach. "Get out!" she screamed into the abyss, hoping to chase away the invisible demons threatening to pull her under. The shadows receded slightly, the laughter dying down, replaced by ominous stillness that filled her with dread. Something was preparing to strike. With pounding heart, Sarah advanced cautiously into the heart of the living room. Suddenly, the flashlight flickered out, plunging her into darkness. Her breath hitched, but she fought against the paralyzing fear. She couldn't allow the shadows to claim her. Gripping the knife tightly, she focused desperately on the sounds around her. Breaths, whispers, A rustle behind the curtains. Panic surged as she willed herself to remain calm. She couldn't let them see her falter. "Come on," she whispered through clenched teeth, willing her body to move forward. Having little choice, she crept toward the curtains, muscles tense, ready to lash out. Just as she reached out for the fabric, the room exploded with blinding light. Flooding in from cracked windows, the storm illuminated the shadows, fracturing their grip for a heartbeat. And in that fleeting moment, she saw them, a multitude of faces forming in the darkness, twisted and sorrowful. They were the lost, the forgotten, and they reached out to her. "Join us," they urged, despair in their pleading eyes, trying to lure her into their fold. "No," Sarah shouted, shaking her head fiercely. But the moment of clarity vanished as the shadows descended upon her once more. A whirlwind of darkness, their laughter booming like thunder, echoing the storm outside. She stumbled back, feeling the cold, grasping fingers of the shadows tugging at her. Panic raced through her veins once more. What could she offer to turn this tide? She had to find a way. They wanted her, of all people. What could they take from her that would satisfy their insatiable hunger? With renewed fury, she felt a surge of determination rise within her. She wouldn't surrender to this horror. Not now, not ever. If there was a price to be paid, she would face it head on as the shadows converged. A single thought settled in. She had to confront the darkness within herself. But what truth would be revealed in that confrontation? Just then, a terrible crack echoed through the air. A sound mingled with laughter and anguish. And as Sarah looked deeper into the darkness around her, she understood. One terrifying truth: what if the shadows weren't just haunting her? What if they were a piece of herself she couldn't escape? What would she have to sacrifice to finally break free? The shadows felt alive now, their cold grip tightening around Sarah. Driven by desperation, she forced herself to breathe, forcing her mind to race. What lay beyond their laughter, that grasped her heart like a vice? "Face it, Sarah," she murmured, the words slipping through her mouth like a promise. "You've run from your truth for too long." As if responding to her defiance, the shadows pulsated, a wave that echoed her internal tumult. She could almost hear her own heartbeat mingling with theirs, a chaotic symphony of suffering. She stumbled, trying to regain control, when memories flooded back. Images of her childhood laughter at the park. Long summer days sparked flickers of warmth in contrast to the encroaching chill. Yet, those moments vied for space with darker ones, past moments filled with betrayal and regret. The shadows surged closer, their whispers insistent. "Join us." Suddenly, Sarah remembered the mirror she had broken years ago, a reflection of her fears. Her own guilt had fed this nightmare. Those moments she deemed insignificant, those painful little secrets, had stitched themselves into these shadows, crafting a mockery of her soul. Perhaps they were not all malevolent. They were pieces of her pain, begging for release. "Stop!" she screamed into the dark. "I won't be your prisoner anymore." The shadows recoiled, hesitating for the briefest of seconds, spotting a small shard of glass mingled amidst the scattered debris. She dove toward it, grasping it tightly. For a moment, it felt electrifying against her palm. This was her chance. If she could just use it to confront what hid inside her vortex of despair, perhaps she could unearth the truth nestled within. Heart racing, she thrust the shard into the air, as if wielding a sword against the darkness. "I know you're not just shadows," she shouted, determination fueling each word. "You're my fears, my regrets. You're a part of me, but you won't define me." The air crackled around her. Some shadows writhed, healing fractures she had long since dismissed. There was something almost comforting in their pain. The laughter came again, but this time it didn't feel hostile. It felt resigned, accepting. They twined around her like a shroud, layers of her past entwining with her present. "Embrace us," they urged, softly now, their voices sadder but somehow familiar. For the first time, Sarah hesitated. Could embracing her darkest moments free her? Or would that be surrender instead? "What do I have to lose?" she whispered, Her voice breaking against the echo of their laughter, she plunged deeper into that tangled memory. A warmth spread through her heart. The shadows echoed her pain, amplifying the sorrow of every choice she regretfully made. Yet mixed in those shadows were flashes of strength, moments where she chose to smile instead of weep. There was resilience among the wreckage. Suddenly, in the throes of that recognition, the cacophony quieted. Shadows flinched away, and she felt lightness flickering at the edges of her vision. A tension released, unraveling a threadbare knot that had bound her for so long. Yet, lurking deep within the swirling darkness, a different figure emerged. An unfamiliar entity, sharp and piercing like the shard in her hand. It watched her with unfathomable eyes, a chilling presence that sent shivers down her spine. Who are you?" she gasped, curiosity mingling with terror as the figure stepped closer. It was hidden in shadow but radiated its own sinister glow. Would it reveal the final piece she needed to escape her own labyrinth? Or would it drag her back into despair? The answer felt just beyond reach, waiting to unfold in the deep recesses of this nightmarish showcase. The figure loomed before her, cloaked in ethereal darkness. Sarah could barely comprehend what she was seeing. It exuded a coldness that stabbed at her heart, each beat echoing her growing dread. The shadows shrank back, their insistent whispers dwindling to tense silence, as if they too feared the presence that now stood before her. "Are you what I've waited for?" She barely breathed, grappling with a bundle of fear and hope. "Are you the answer?" The figure tilted its head, the depths of its shadowy visage shifting unnervingly. For a moment, Sarah thought she glimpsed a faint outline of a smile, but it was twisted, mocking. "Does the truth bring you comfort, Sarah?" The voice was smooth, flowing like cold liquid across her skin. It exposed her vulnerabilities, pricking at her insecurities. "Or will it only serve to further bind you?" Her stomach churned at the implications. The warmth she had felt, the sense of connection with the shadows, now turned to ice. This being was not merely a reflection of her fears, it was something darker, a specter that thrived on them. "Stay away from me," she shouted, spite clinging to her words. Yet, she was chained by a desperate curiosity. The entity took a step forward, an unnatural sludge of shadows pooling around its feet. "You call to your past like a siren calls to the wayward ship. Why not embrace the chaos? It has always been a part of you." It gestured subtly, and in an instant, the memories that had been swirling around her blossomed like sinister flowers, vivid and disturbing. She was plunged into a whirlwind of images, moments of betrayal and loss. Love turned sour, the ache of abandonment stinging her heart. Each revelation splintered her resolve, revealing the cracks she thought had been healed. You think this is who I am?" she said desperately, clutching the shard of glass like a talisman. "You won't make me relive it." "Reliving it is how you heal," it replied, the words chillingly calm. "But healing comes at a cost. Are you willing to pay?" Sarah's breath caught. What cost? What would she have to sacrifice to banish this darkness? "I'll expose you for what you are." "Just an illusion birthed from my fear," she retorted, gripping tighter to the glass. But doubt nipped at her heels. What if she was wrong? What if this entity was the very key to her freedom? The figure's laughter rang hollow, reverberating through the darkness. "You think you control your truth? Ah, Sarah, the heart has its own plans and it craves the shadows just as much as the light." As those words sunk in, a sudden tremor ran through her body. Grounded by fear, she became acutely aware of how fragile her grasp on reality truly was. Could confronting her darkest self ultimately mean embracing the very essence of her being? As the shadows began to twist again, rising to reclaim space, her grip faltered. "What will happen if I let you in? Everything you despise will become you," it sang, and each note wove through the shadows, twisting them into something personal, something dangerous. With a lurch, the swirling mass of shadowy forms surged toward her, melding with her senses. She squeezed her eyes shut against the onslaught of raw emotion, the laughter, the echoes, all tightening around her throat, tugged between two realities, a thread of vulnerability exposed. She took a step backward, Mustering every ounce of courage left in her, she thrust the shard towards the figure, trembling hands demanding answers. "Tell me who I am. What lies beyond this darkness?" The figure halted, the weight of the question hanging in the air like an uninvited guest. The shadows paused, the laughter gone, leaving an eerie silence that seemed to echo the pulse of her racing heart, hovering on a precipice. The silence would not last, and neither would the clarity of her choice. What truth awaited? What revelation lay trapped within the folds of her own shadowed heart? She was on the brink, the boundary between fear and freedom melting away. But first she had to know. Would she find solace in acceptance or be consumed by the shadows of her past? The answer loomed nearer, yet elusive, like a flame in the dark. The figure stood still, the silence tinged with a weight that felt almost tangible. Shadows flickered, momentarily revealing scenes Sarah had buried deep within herself. She felt herself being pulled in different directions, each memory grasping at her heart, threatening to expose wounds she thought had healed. "What lies beyond?" she murmured, almost against her will. There was something intoxicating about the idea of uncovering the truth, even as dread swung like a pendulum within her. The shadows shifted, swirling ominously, but the entity remained unmoved, an impenetrable storm of darkness. "Beyond is power, Sarah," it whispered, its voice a bauble of silk laced with venom. "The power to shape your own destiny or allow fate's cruelty to hold you. But with power comes sacrifice. Your fears must be embraced, their darkness wielded." A tremor of fear shot through her as she wrestled with the implications. Hadn't she spent years fighting to escape that treachery? The shadows beckoned, whispering promises of untold strength if she dared to confront the pain head-on. How could she trust a being that fed on fear, that thrived in its essence? But what if the real darkness lay within her, waiting to be unleashed? "Show me," she demanded, her voice trembling but laced with a newfound resolution. "Show me what I must face." At her words, the shadows roared to life, reshaping the air around her. In an instant, images flew past her childhood home, once filled with laughter, now echoed with screams of her parents' bitter arguments. Her mother's tear-streaked face flickered in and out of view, juxtaposed with moments of sweet sibling banter, now stained by betrayal. "Stop!" she screamed, struggling to shield her heart from the piercing sorrows that danced before her. Yet, just as she felt her resolve cracking, a new presence emerged, a glimmer of light. "Sarah, use it." A familiar voice pierced through the chaos, pulling her focus. It was Stevie, her younger brother, his eyes wide, pleading. He had been the one unwavering constant in her life, the love that held her together through the disarray. "Stevie," she gasped, realizing too late that the shadows sought to rewrite the narrative. They wanted to twist her memories, to shroud her purpose in darkness. She had to remember that light, the bond they shared, that flicker of recognition. The entity flared menacingly, its dark hold on her tightening. "You cannot look away," it shrieked, shadows curling with ferocity, the air thick with malevolence. Suddenly, she felt warmth radiate from the shard of glass in her hand. As it began to gleam, a collage of memories flooded her mind, interspersed with moments that had given her strength. Long summer afternoons, laughter echoing in the chilly air, fleeting glimpses of joy. The memories of resilience surged like a dam breaking, washing away the remnants of despair. "Embrace your shadows," the figure hissed. But now Sarah felt a buoyancy she had never known. "Understand them. Only then can you wield them." Taking a deep breath, she steadied herself. "I will not be defined by your darkness. I choose the light," she declared, feeling the power swell within her. With a fierce thrust, she thrust the shard forward, a beacon igniting the air. For a moment, everything froze. There was a pulse, a shift, as though the world had turned inside out. This was her moment of reckoning. Before she could catch her breath, the shadows recoiled, their laughter morphing into shrieks of rage. The entity was being pushed back, but it was not defeated yet, lurking still in the corners of her heart and the tumult. A single question echoed, reverberating through the chaos and draping itself over the scene like a shroud. What would she become if she surrendered to the light? With a heart heavy with uncertainty, Sarah braced for what was to come. Would she become her greatest savior or her worst enemy? The answer lay in the choices yet to unfold. Sarah's breath cascaded in uneven bursts as she faced the entity, shadows swirling and straining against the brilliance radiating from the jagged glass shard she clutched. Each pulsation of light momentarily fractured the oppressive dark, illuminating the twisted forms clawing at her, sipping greedily from her fear. "Face it, Sarah," she murmured, steeling herself against the encroaching horror. "You are not just the darkness you feared. You are the light too." The words poured from her, forging a powerful resolve that surged through her veins like wildfire, igniting her spirit. "Foolish girl," the entity hissed, moving closer, the shadows that composed it straining against the glow. "You think you can change what lies within? You are but a fragment of despair." "No!" Sarah's cry rang through the air as the shard pulsed, glowing brighter, fueled by the memories of her little brother, joyful laughter, and love that had wrapped around her like a warm blanket, protecting her from the bitter cold of abandonment. The shadows wailed, recoiling and twisting in agitation as she pressed closer. "You may be the thorn in my side," the entity protested, its voice lowering into a dangerous growl, "but I will make you see. I will show you what it feels to be alone." With newfound clarity, Sarah charged forward, the shard extended as if it were a sword against the creature's darkness. "I won't hide anymore," she screamed. "I will face every pain, every heartache, because they're part of me." As if recognizing her defiance, the shadows twisted angrily, swirling in a tempest of rage. "You will regret this," it spat, and the walls trembled under its fury. But Sarah felt an unexpected calm wash over her. It was time to reclaim her narrative. "I'm not running from you," she declared, her voice steady and true. That moment of transparency within herself turned the tide. Her memories, painful as they were, became a prism refracting the light on the darkness. The air shimmered, filling with echoes of laughter from shared moments. Voices rang out, cheerful and youthful, remnants of a once happy past brushing against her heart like a gentle breeze. "Together, we're stronger," she whispered, feeling the support of those she loved, the tether connecting her to life, hope, and the very essence of love itself. In a climactic surge, she thrust the shard forward, aiming to pierce the heart of the entity. Light exploded from the glass, a radiant flare enveloping the shadows, forcing them back with fierce intensity. "You don't own me," she roared. Suddenly, the room erupted in a kaleidoscope of colors, illuminating every inch, sending shadows scurrying away like frightened creatures into the corners of the space. The darkness shattered before her eyes, crumbling into dust, and with it, the rooted fears that had brewed inside her heart for so long. The entity bellowed, its form dissipating into wisps of smoke, battling against her light but ultimately unraveling into insignificance. For the first time, she felt free release flooded her senses as she watched the shadows retreat, their hold on her loosening, fading away until they were but whispers of what had once been. And in the eye of the now tranquil storm, Sarah felt a surge of peace wash over her. She turned to see flickers of warmth and light, faces shimmering in the echoing light shimmer, the people she loved guiding her, her brother smiling wide, reassuring her that though darkness had come and gone, it could never extinguish the eternal bond they shared. "Together," she said quietly, feeling the warmth encircle her. Embracing the remnants of her past no longer felt like a weight, but rather a testament to her strength. Each scar was a story, reminding her of the beauty lying in resilience. "Thank you," she whispered, feeling gratitude humble her spirit. With that, the light crescendoed, illuminating the room in a radiant glow. It enveloped her, buoying her up, and carried her into a newfound reality, a world where shadows would never hold dominion again. As dawn broke softly over Maplewood, she emerged from the darkness, reborn, lighter, stronger, and ready to confront whatever lay ahead with the entirety of her being. Sarah finally breathed a sigh of relief. The haunting presence that had cloaked her life slipped away into memory, a mere echo that stretched before her like a fading twilight. In this new light, she would shape her destiny with courage against whatever future might come. But deep inside, she knew it was more than just shadows that had been defeated. She emerged armed with hope and the brilliance of self-determination, ready to step into the world as her true self. And for the first time, she felt the warmth of hope ignite a fire in her chest, ready to light up the path ahead. So let this be a lesson to all who listen: embrace your truths, even if they are cloaked in shadows. The light that emerges can conquer anything. Are you ready to face your own shadows? Listen closely, because it's time to take a stand for your own story. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Sarah's journey. And finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to support the channel in these moments. It means everything. Don't wait even one more second.